For decades now, China's Communist Party has enforced strict birth limits on families. Only one child allowed, no more.
China's population is shrinking, with the national birth rate falling to a record low last year.
China have announced that couples will be allowed to have up to 3 children, raising the limit from 2. It follows census figures showing a steep decline in the birth rate.
One of the most powerful economic entities in the world currently is China. The nation has transformed itself into one of the supreme leaders of the global economy in the past few decades, with great industrialization and export policies. But the economic transformation of China didn't take place in one day. And any single factor didn't impact the rise of the Chinese economy. Industries like manufacturing, agriculture, technology, education growth, infrastructure growth, and large human resources are many factors that contributed to the development of the Chinese economy. A big influence that played part in the economic miracle of China was its large population. But the Chinese government always had to control the ever-growing population of the country. In the January of 2023, China's National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, reported that the population of the country was 1.41 billion by the end of 2022, which meant a drop of the population by 850,000 people in 1 year. After 1961, it was the first occasion when China saw a decline in its population. In 1960 and 1961, the Chinese economy suffered population drop twice back-to-back. But after that, in 2022, it was the first time when China saw a drop in the overall population of the country. It is also predicted that the Chinese population will continuously decrease with time over the next 80 years. A major reason why China is seeing this drop is the implementation of the one-child policy. Between the years 1980 to 2015, the Chinese government took the one-child policy approach to reduce the growth of the population. Now the question is, why did the government take the one-child policy if the population is so important? The problem is, China is a large region. And it will always have to control its population due to the size of the economy. If the population grows too fast, economic crisis will emerge as unemployment rates will be uncontrollable. If the population growth is hampered, the economy will face the crisis of decline in production levels. So, the Chinese government will always have to balance the growth level of the population as required. But another problem emerged at that time. When the government implemented the one-child policy, a large number of Chinese parents thought of giving birth to only male child. The reason is very simple. They thought of their future needs, and believed that male children will be more useful for their future. In this situation, a huge gap between the male population and the female population emerged in recent years, creating a gap of 32 million males who were not being able to find females for getting married. In 2022, there were around 722 million male and only 690 million females opposed to them in the region. This situation creates another problem. And, that is, you need both males and females for reproduction. So, the reproduction the Chinese region has also slowed down, which is a major concern for the country. Though the recent decline is the result of the one-child policy and the lifestyle changes of the Chinese people, the 1960s population drop was caused by the forced industrialization policy of Mao Zedong. The Great Leap Forward. During the 1960s, Mao Zedong tried to force industrialization on the Chinese economy and it backfired. The forced industrialization resulted in a famine, and, in the years 1960 and 1961, the Chinese population declined. But the recent decline was expected. Even in the year 2022, the United Nations published a report that the Chinese population will decline in 2022, and, by the middle of 2023, India will be the largest country on Earth in terms of population. The growth rate of Chinese population is declining compared to even the rates of 1970 to 1979. According to the reports of the United Nations, in the year 2021, China had the largest share of the world population at 18%. And, by the end of 2050, the Chinese region will hold only 13% of the global population. And, in the next 80 years, by the year 2100, China will only have 7% of the world population. The current situation of Chinese policy makers is exact opposite to the situations before. The policy makers are encouraging couples to have more babies now. As the Chinese people are getting more distant from the idea of giving birth, the death rate of people in the region is now higher compared to the birth rate of new children. Though the country has controlled its death rates and made it stable for a long time, currently is facing challenges to ensure the birth rate of children required for economic growth. Mentality change is a big factor that influenced Chinese people to get away from the idea of having child. And the new generations are more anxious about the complexities of childbirth, which makes it more challenging for the Chinese to ensure enough childbirth in the region. And, most ironic of all, the Chinese government saw the reduction in population as a success as it implemented the one-child policy in the 1980s. But in 2016, the government took the two-child policy to encourage people again for giving birth. Also, in 2021, the government allowed people to even have their third child. But still, the government finds it challenging to increase birth rate. In the years after the COVID-19, it has become more challenging for the government to encourage people about childbirth. After the pandemic took place, the global economy has been struggling to balance again. And the inflation rates are larger than ever, which makes the lives of middle-income people more challenging. In such a period of great economic crisis, the government finds it hard to encourage young people to give birth as they are fearful about the costs of childbearing. In the history of modern capitalism, one of the greatest and most fascinating stories is the rise of China as an economic superpower from a poor Asian country. The rise of Chinese economy is seen as an impressive example of industrialization, development, and growth. And the Chinese population played a large part in it, as a huge number of human resources were available at a very cheaper rates all over China. The Chinese government used the large population as a significant element of growth. And a significant number of Chinese industries are dependent on the large population it has. As the population of China is constantly falling, and a good number of people are aging, the country has a higher chance of facing a labor shortage. And the government is soon going to find it difficult to restore and balance the retired people to the workforce every year. Nothing is constant. China is one of the largest economic powers in the world, and the major factor behind this economic rise is its population. No one knew how China could reshape its economy with this large population, and no one knows how the country will deal with this new situation where keeping the economic growth sustainably is the bigger challenge. With the decline in this population, new challenges will come, and how the government deals with these issues will be some learnings from the future.